in our Evolve and Adapt series called Use the Power of Microsoft 365. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that we are live, people can hear us, and people can see us. So if you wouldn't mind sticking a little thumbs up into the chat area there, that would be great.
Yeah, all good.
All good. Great. Okay, we have a few in, so which is good. Good. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so just a very quick introduction. I know, so we have a lot of customers online. We have a lot of non-customers online too as well. So for those who don't know me, my name is Neil Phelan. I'm a director here in HCS. I'm joined by my two colleagues this morning, Mick Glascott, who is our Microsoft 365 productivity specialist, and Kathy Gilmartin, who's our marketing manager. And Kathy's going to moderate and keep me on the straight and narrow here this morning. So Kathy's going to look after the chat for us. So if you have any questions that come up, say during the presentation, that you can think of, pop them in the chat window. They're all moderated, and then we'll be able to deal with them at the end. And if any technical questions or anything like that, we have Mick with us who will answer those for us too at the end. So don't be shy. If you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. Okay, so look, what I'm going to do is if you don't mind, folks, I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to ask Kat and Mick to do the same, go on mute. And what we'll do is I just really want you to get you focusing in on the presentation. I'm sure you really don't want to be looking at me on this bright sunny morning. So just flick it off there. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is a very, very brief introduction to HCS, and then we're going to look at a number of different products, solutions, whatever you want to call them, within Microsoft Stroke Office 365. Everything you're going to see today is our products or solutions that are within the most basic Office 365 subscriptions. Everybody has these particular products, and it's what can you do with them? And hopefully by the end of this presentation, which will probably last around 40 minutes or more, but you'll be able to get a very good idea of what is possible and what maybe gets you start thinking on how you can use these products. The one product which I suppose is quite topical and I'm not discussing today is Teams. In one way, Teams is a product that for me I'll be looking at in under the Modernized Communications webinar that we'll be doing in a couple of months' time. But for now, we're going to focus in on these. And then, as I said, any questions we'll leave to the end. So quick introduction to HCS. And look, I've put at the center there, we're a Microsoft Gold partner. We've been a long-term partner of Microsoft's over the last 20 years, and we have various different credentials from cloud productivity to cloud infrastructure, etc. But Microsoft play a key role in every single solution and service that we offer. And, I suppose, to be fair, our business is built around everything that they offer. And it's been a success for us over the last 20 years, and I can't see it being any different going forward. I suppose we are a leading technology solution provider for SME and enterprise, so we deal with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses and the larger corporate customers too as well. We do a lot of work for them. We're actually nearly 25 years in business, 26 years in business actually this year. We have offices in Dublin and Waterford. And we're employing 35 people, various technical and professional services, account management and support staff. We've over 300 clients and we have a nationwide reach. I suppose our nationwide reach really is stemming from the way technology has evolved over the last number of years. Everything is in the cloud now, so be it servers or be it services or applications, and it makes no difference where you are supporting them, whether you're in Waterford or Dublin, or be it that we have customers in Galway or Limerick or Cork. When you're supporting cloud infrastructure, you can support them remotely, and it works very, very well for us. Okay, so let's focus in on, I suppose, these focus in on our products. At the, we'll share this presentation with you, and on each of these, what is OneDrive, what are forms, what is SharePoint. I've linked these out to short 1 minute YouTube videos from Microsoft, which gives you some more information on our Microsoft's version of what is OneDrive and forms and SharePoint. I'll give you ours now through the rest of this presentation, and we'll have a quick look at those, and we'll also, there's one under Power Platform, but that's broken into these particular apps. So let's start with OneDrive. It's a cloud file storage solution. Simple as that, and we'll be having a look at that in more detail. We'll be looking at Forms, which is a simple data collection solution or service, and we'll be having a look at that in more detail. We'll focus in on SharePoint, and there's 3 particular areas that I want to focus in on SharePoint. SharePoint's quite a broad subject, and we've been implementing SharePoint solutions for the last 10 years. But if I look back on the majority of stuff that we have done, it's been very much around these 3 areas: a company intranet or an internal website for companies to share data and information, as a company extranet where you want to share information securely with others, others being customers or suppliers, and also as a cloud file storage solution for teams or departments, where there's maybe some more advanced features needed, like metadata and automation, and that's where the difference you would get between OneDrive and SharePoint. And then something that I'm sure a lot of you have heard about potentially is Power Platform. And what is Power Platform? And we'll be having a look at that today. But it's predominantly made up of 3 applications called Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. So that's what we'll be focusing in on. Okay, so OneDrive. What is OneDrive? And let's have a quick look at it. So for us, where we use, from a OneDrive point of view, it's personal cloud file storage. It can also be team or department cloud file storage. So what I mean by that is you've got a file share for the sales team, for the accounts team, or for the operations team, whatever it may be. Well, you could store that in SharePoint, or sorry, in OneDrive, and share that amongst your team or your department, and also you can have it as a personal cloud file store. For us, as a simple file storage solution, personal or department, OneDrive is it. It works extremely well. And every single Office 365 user gets 1 terabyte of storage. So if you've got 50 users of Office 365, you're getting 50 terabytes of storage. In other words, 1 terabyte per user. In the event where you have a large set of data, so that you've got archives of data with a couple of terabytes, or what we can do is we can take it. There's a OneDrive for Business Plan 2, and if you have a minimum of 5 users on that plan, which works out at about €42 per month, you end up having unlimited storage. So by default, you'll get 5 terabyte. Once you would reach that 5 terabyte, once you get to 90%, sorry, of using that 5 terabyte, you'll get 25 terabytes of storage added on. And then when you start filling up that 25 terabyte, you can ring up Microsoft and say, give me more. So there's unlimited storage within that particular plan. So there's no excuse to not being able to archive data or hold on to data. But trust me, 25 terabyte or even 5 terabyte is a hell of a lot of data. OneDrive has excellent offline sync solution, and I'll give you a quick look at that. It's very easy to access and share, whether it's on a mobile or whether it's on a desktop. It's so simple. There's a really good fast search within SharePoint, and search for content within documents. You have version control and version history, so that you can roll back to previous versions of the document. And I suppose the whole area of ransomware, which people probably have heard a lot about in the past couple of weeks. Built within OneDrive, you've got a ransomware detection and recovery tool, which Microsoft will automatically detect if there's any ransomware on any documents, and it'll help you recover those documents back to its previous known good version before the ransomware was detected. And you can go back up to 30 days in terms of from a recovery point of view, which is good. So if you do happen to get infected and your documents are stored in OneDrive, well, then you have a very easy recovery tool. And then basically everything is as secure and encrypted. All your data is at rest. At rest is encrypted. And what I mean by at rest is when it's stored in the cloud, it is fully encrypted to the latest encryption standards. So just to have a quick look at what OneDrive is, because it's and I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I use OneDrive all the time. We use OneDrive ourselves between as shares within the business too as well. But if I were to look at different, here's OneDrive for me. It's as simple as that. There's my folders. Here's documents, etc. Everything is just stored. It's a file share. Just think of nothing different. The only thing is you end up with this status tag that is on here, and this status means cloud. So here I've got an archive productivity folder. It's actually up in the cloud. I have a stub of it, is what I call it here. But if I double click on that, that's actually reading. All these documents are stored in OneDrive in the cloud. They're not stored locally on my machine. They're actually stored in the cloud. So whereas this particular folder here is actually available to me offline. So notebooks, if I double clicked on that, this URL file is actually stored locally. What that actually means is if I did have no internet connection, okay, for some particular reason, okay, I wouldn't be able to access these documents because they're in the cloud, but the documents that are local to me, I can access them because they're on my machine. That's very handy if you want to, so that full sync technology, if people are moving about, if they're at home or in the office, wherever, it just works extremely well. So look, there's not too much more to show in there, except I'll just show you one other, which is very useful in here. If someone shares a folder with me, so in other words, Sean has shared the personnel folder from his OneDrive, and this is, we collaborate on our personnel documents, and they're all stored in Sean's SharePoint, but I have access to them, even though they're all, again, up in the cloud. I have full access to the personnel folder and say anything in HCS job descriptions, etc. But again, very simple, very easy for me to work with. Look, I'm going to move on because we have a lot to get through, but that's OneDrive, and it's for basic file storage. That's, in my opinion, our recommendation is to use it, and it's working very well for us, and a lot of our customers are moving that way. Okay, moving on to forms. Okay, so forms is basically a very simple data collection solution, and you can work with it with surveys, with questionnaires. We use it to in various different forms. Of one, and I'll give you a quick look at it, is if someone was setting up a new account with us or becoming a new customer, we would send them out a link to the new customer setup form, and it's a very basic form fill in. You can access it on mobile or access it on desktop. You can make these forms private, as in they're private to a group of people or private to your company, or you can make the forms public, so that you can distribute them out to anybody. The data that will be collected, you can store the data in Excel, or in our instance, we often store it in SharePoint. And that's predominantly where it ends up being stored. And then you can automate the data that is being collected with Power Automate, and we'll have a look at that later on when it all comes together. But the whole area of automation, so maybe when someone fills in a form, you want a trigger to say, hey, we've just a new customer has signed up. here are the details, and alert the accounts department so that they can go and set up that customer on the account system. Very simply, just have a quick look at what the new customer setup form looks like. So there's a link out to a new customer, out to a Microsoft form, and it's a public link, and then you can fill in your details here. I'm not going to go through filling in the form. It's a very, very basic form that you just fill on in, and you can click on next. Now, all of these, we've made all those required fields, so you can put conditions on it, so that people fill in what you want them to fill in, etc. But I'm sure you've all, at some stage over the past while, come across a Microsoft form, but very, very useful for very simple data collection. Okay, and we'll get a better look on this later on, as we go through the presentation this morning. So that's forms, lots that you can do with it, and for us, anybody can create a new form. It's very, very simple, and we highly recommend people to use them. Okay, SharePoint. SharePoint for us is, look, it's a product we've been working with for a number of years, and it's changed quite a lot from SharePoint on-premise to and then with the whole move to Office 365 and cloud, we ended up with SharePoint Online, we've used it extensively in various different solutions, but I think three things have really probably stood out for us over the past number of years, and the first one of those is, I will use SharePoint as an internal company website. We'll call it an intranet to share company information and data, and that's predominantly something we've done for a lot of customers. Being honest, it's smaller customers who will be anyone less than maybe 10, 20 employees generally will not create an intranet. They'll have different methods of communication, maybe by email, etc. But if you've got a large organization with multiple offices, and multiple departments with people in it, so kind of 50 plus upwards, certainly the internal company website actually becomes an important communication tool. We have some Microsoft, say, intranet examples. These are default templates. I'm just going to give you a quick look at them. These templates, they're available on our website, and there's a link out to them. But here's a sample Microsoft SharePoint, which, look, these look very well, and a lot of this is down to the graphics and the color and branding, but it's very, very easy to do within SharePoint now, and if you use the default tools that are there, you can actually make some very, very nice internal company websites, and anybody with a little level of IT skill can actually build up their intranet. So look, very, very simple news, and it's very much all around news, maybe frequently used sites, my calendar, my recent documents, my recommendations, and then various different graphics and links off to other areas, events, what's going on in terms of social media within the company, and other conversations that may be happening which are general to the business, and then again various links off, so you can build it up quite easy, and that's a desktop version. The mobile version will look equally as good. Here's another, there's 4 different ones there, but I'll just show you this one. Here's a communication site, so there's different kind of templates that you can use. Nice big graphics, again all about news, and linking off to different areas. So as you can see, I probably feel intranets are definitely for the larger size companies. I'm not saying that small companies don't need them either, but predominantly we see it's the large companies that will adopt them. So there's just some sample Microsoft websites. Oops, sorry, my presentation has gone. Okay, we're back again. And we've done some. Here's some sample, say, intranets that we've done for our customers. So convention center in Dublin. We built an intranet for them last year, and this is again very simple site, but it's really all around hot links out to vision and values, health and safety department. These are their various different systems that they have, CCD news, and something that was very important to them was the weekly menu on in the canteen. And then you get down to the actual health and safety site, and here you go, you have different links off to accident report forms, safety statements, health and safety committee meetings, risk assessments, any upcoming events. So nice, simple SharePoint internal intranet site. Here was another one we did for a company called Heron Brothers in the north. They again loads of different. This is their initial homepage, and various different links off to various different departments that they have. I know you can't see it; the image is small, but down here then we have all these various different projects. So they wanted a SharePoint site per project so that they could share information about different projects that they were actually running. And again, click on that link and you get to that project site, and all the information and maybe documents and content related to that particular project would have been stored in it. Finally, we did one there for the IMI. This is quite an old style, but still some way modern, again with links and sites, various different sites. So these are essentially intranets. So you can see there's lots of things that you can do with SharePoint and intranets, and you can have different designs, and it really depends on what you need. So moving on, one of the other areas was the company extranet. So where you want to share information with others. So this again is something that we've noticed customers take up is building extranet. So extranet for us is if you want to share information with, let's say, a customer supplier, we generally predominantly use SharePoint to build out an extranet. And here's a little extranet example. Look, I've removed a lot of branding and that, not to, because it was something that we had done for a customer, but this particular customer shares they share a lot of documents related to products that they sell, and there's specification documents and sorts of analysis, so a lot of documentation goes with orders, and then basically their customers log into this portal and they can find all the documentation related to the products and related to any certifications and orders that they have, and they can log in here very simply, very easy. Works quite well for them. Here's another, again, a very simple extranet where a customer who's in the financial sector, who has got lots of different clients, probably he has actually about 100 different portals, and each portal then they basically are sharing documents and brochures with their partners, and again everything is just dropped into each individual's portal in terms of what's specific to them, and again files and folders, but again works extremely well for them. So extranets, intranet and extranets would be a good use of SharePoint. Lastly, that I just want to look at in terms of from a SharePoint point of view is the whole area of cloud file storage. So SharePoint can be used for file storage, and I suppose predominantly we would use it quite extensively ourselves as for within our teams and within our departments. But there's just one issue that we find with SharePoint over OneDrive for file storage that's a disadvantage, and that is you get a significantly amount less space in SharePoint than you do in OneDrive. So per tenancy or per company, you get 1 terabyte plus 10 gig per user thereafter. So let's say if you have 10 users, you will get 1 terabyte plus 100 gigs of storage. Whereas in OneDrive, you'd actually end up getting 10 terabytes of storage. So you're getting significantly less storage. But if you want to add on storage to SharePoint, you can, but it's actually very expensive, and a lot more expensive than it is in OneDrive. So if you're predominantly just want to use SharePoint, or sorry, just one file storage, our recommendation is go down with OneDrive route as opposed to the SharePoint route, purely on that basis. And the only reason where we would suggest to use SharePoint storage is because of my next two comments. If you want to use metadata or you want to put some automation around those documents. Okay, so what is metadata? Metadata is effectively tags against documents. So you might want to tag a document that is associated with a marketing department, or it's associated with a price or quote, or it's associated with a project, or it's associated with a salesperson, etc. So you can put any amount of tags, details against a document. And I'll give you an example of where we did it for a customer. So that's the difference, is you can't put metadata on documents in OneDrive. You can only do it in SharePoint. And the other thing is so process automation. So you can do you can automate processes around those documents when they're done in SharePoint, and that's our recommendation. If you want to, let's say when a new document is created in this library, if you want to kick off a process that says that this document has to be approved by someone else before it's visible to everyone else in the department, well then that's what you'd use Power Automate for, and that's where the whole area of process automation comes in. And again, that's for SharePoint and not for OneDrive. But so I just want to show you a little example of metadata and Power Automate as an example. I'm just going to pop out to this inquiry form. Okay, so this was something that we did for a customer recently, and is a very simple SharePoint library where documents are stored. So this customer had a document, and they were called inquiry forms. So everything, all these inquiry forms were printed. Basically, they were documents, forms that they printed out, and then everything was being filled in on paper. So we digitized the process for them by taking the form and putting it into a Word document. So if I were to have a look at one of these documents, this is what the document actually looks like. So there's a form. Okay, so we made up this particular form so that it was in Word for them. Quite detailed, a lot of information in there. Okay, now what they wanted to do though is they wanted some metadata attached to these forms, because the forms were the inquiries were either for a quote or for a price. So what we end up doing is we added these tags are metadata to it. So you have quote, or you can tag it as a price, or you can tag it as a query. They also wanted us to add in customers, suppliers, and quantity information, and the salesperson who was dealing with it. So there's my document, and here's the metadata that's associated with it. Okay, so, and then we have this thing called views. So I'm just going to look at all my documents. So here's all my documents, or all my inquiries. Here's all its metadata. Okay, now the fact that I have this metadata, I can actually use this metadata to say, hey, show me all, filter this, and show me all, say, quotes. Then I'm just looking at quotes. That's where metadata comes in really useful. So I'll try and turn off my, I don't know what's happening there. Okay, so let's say I wanted to see open inquiries. So I've got these views. So this will show me open inquiries, and we've grouped it by salesperson. So you can look at your, say, for Kate or for Mick or for myself. So that's the power of metadata. Very, very useful. So what we did is let's say we create a new inquiry. This is what they do. We create a new inquiry and we fill in the metadata that we want to use. So it's an inquiry type of type price. It's for a company called Contoso. It's for a quantity of 100. The country is Ireland, let's say. Who my supplier is HCS, and who the salesperson is, we'll choose me. Okay, and then I save that. So now what we've done is we filled in the metadata, and we have a bit of an automation feature going on here, or a Power Automate workflow, which goes away and creates the document automatically for us, gives it an inquiry number, and then pre-populates the document with the metadata that I put in. So you can see here that this inquiry here number is blank. I've got my customer and my inquiry form. Okay, the Power Automate hasn't run. I'm just going to do a refresh here. It generally will take anything from 60 to 90 seconds to actually run. This is just one of the issues with Power Automate, that they don't run instantly. It takes a while for them to run. And there we go. Here's the inquiry numbers being created. Here's my document. And if I look down here under Neil Phelan, EN1022 has just been created. It's a price for Contoso HCS 100. So there's my metadata. And now if I open this document, here's my inquiry, and here's my inquiry number, EN1022 for Condoso, for HCS, Neil Phelan, quantity of 100. And then I can start filling in anything extra that I want to start filling in relation to this particular document. And save it, and it's just a normal document. So that's a very, we basically have taken what was a manual document, piece of paper. We've automated it. We've attached metadata to it, and now we've created a digital copy of the form, and as I said, pre-populated with the metadata, and that works very well. So that's a real good live example of automation and metadata within SharePoint. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some insight there. Moving on to the next section. Okay, Power Automate. Sorry, not that one. I'm gone too far. Power Apps. So we're into the Power Platform now, and what is Power Apps? Again, there's a YouTube video if you want to go in and have a look at that. You'll see what it is. But for us, Power Apps is it's an area or product or solution or service, whatever you want to call it, that allows you to build desktop and mobile apps quickly. Microsoft called this the low code, no code solution. And yes, they're right, but look, I think I'll be honest. I think you need a certain level of skill set in order to be able to build applications and put it together, and that's where we can come in for you. It takes time to learn the technology and learn how it pulls together. So very rarely will someone be able to just pick it up and start using it straight away. Forms you could. I don't think you can do that with Power Apps. And for me, Power Apps is a more complex data collection or retrieval solution. But there's two types of applications that you can build. There's Canvas apps, which I'll say they're free because they're already part of your of your subscription, or model-driven apps. Model-driven apps are basically different apps that connect to what we call the Microsoft Dataverse. Straight up, we've never, in 2 years of using Power Apps, we haven't built a model-driven app, and I don't think I can see any need for us to be doing it. Everything we do is we build with Canvas apps. With Power Apps, you can connect to hundreds of data sources, and there is tons of them which I would call are free: SharePoint, Outlook, OneDrive, Teams, etc., and loads more which are free. And then there's the premium connectors, which basically would be the likes of SQL Server on premise, Dynamics, Business Central, SAP. So these will be where you could connect Power Apps to. SAP or Business Central, and it would recognize the database there, and you can build apps on top of that particular database. But they're what we call premium connectors, and they're quite expensive. But a Canvas app and standard is everything that we've worked with over the past 2 years, and we've built lots and lots of apps for customers. Using those two solutions. And here's one that we've done ourselves. It's we call it Swipe In, but we built it for as a COVID as a little application to track visitors that come into our premises when they come in. So we have a little tablet sitting out at the front door. So when someone comes in, they go to the tablet and they basically simple sign in. This app took a couple of hours to write, and it's very simple. But they click on visitor in, enter their name, Neil Phelan, HCS. The email address, and phone number 087 whatever. Click on next and ask all the simple questions. No, 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 and submit. And then you can say, right, who am I meeting? I'm meeting Sean, and say notify Sean. Thank you, Sean has been notified. So that's it. That basically is a Power App, and what that has done is now that's run a Power Automate, which has basically sent an email to Sean to tell him that Neil Phelan is in the reception waiting for him. Now, when I come back or when I'm leaving the building, and then I can click on my visitor out, and I can say, click on me, sign me out. That's a Power App. Very, very simple. And we have built lots and lots of different little Power Apps for customers for data collection, data retrieval, and they work really well both for desktop and for mobile. Okay, moving on to next section, Power Automate. And again, you have a little YouTube video up there, but Power Automate for me is a workflow solution that allows you to automate everyday time-consuming tasks. For me, this is the glue that brings everything together. And Power Automate is embedded into Microsoft 365, every Microsoft 365 product. It's built into Office, it's built into OneDrive, SharePoint, Power Apps, Teams, Forms, and it brings everything together. This is what will, I suppose, automate manual processes within your business. And as a product, it is developed so much over the past 2 years that it's unbelievable where it's going. And for me, this is the glue. This just brings everything together. And I'm just going to show you an example of something that I done personally for my own local GA club. And what I've done is I've brought everything together to create a solution. I've brought forms, I brought Power Automate, I brought SharePoint, and I brought Outlook all together to create a solution to solve a problem. And that problem for us was club membership. Our club membership system was always manual paper, and we had a registration night, and not everyone turned up on registration night, and then there was coaches going around with registration forms, and there was money being handed to coaches for children as they were registering. And hey, we worked like that for a number of years, but COVID, I think, changed that for us, where hey, we needed to get club membership in, and we needed to get the registration process in place, but couldn't hold a registration night. So basically, we moved to an online solution, and I built this solution, and realistically I put this together in about 3 or 4 hours, and it's transformed what we have done as a club. But essentially, we have a club membership form, and just to give you a quick look, here's the form. St. Mary's Juvenile GA Club, all the usual stuff goes on there, and then you're asking the people to enter their details: name in Irish, date of birth, medical conditions, GA's code of conduct, ticking the box, etc., etc. Standard basic form. Nothing too complex in that, and a couple of different pages. I'm not going to fill it in. But the next thing that we did was then I created was a Power Automate workflow. And first thing that happens here is a parent fills in a registration form, and then when a registration form is filled in, very first thing that happens is this is the workflow. This is actually just a copy of the actual workflow as it is in Power Automate. So when a new response is submitted, what we want to do is get the response details. So I want to take all the details that have been collected on the form, and I want to add those response details to the club members list in SharePoint. And what that does is now I've got a list of all the club members, and they're all stored in SharePoint on a list, just like that metadata that you saw earlier. So all the details are there and available to us as people register. But one of the issues that we have in the club is that any registrations cannot be done by us because we're an amalgamation club. They have to be done by what we call the adult club. And what we need to do is we need to notify the secretaries in the adult club when a child registers for their club. So we have these 4 different conditions here. So in the event of if a child send an email to Newtown, send an email to Kill, send an email to Kilmac, send an email to Bunmahan, and also send an email to the parent. And the condition on this one, send email to parent, is if the parent has filled in their email address and it's a valid email address, send them an email. But just to have a quick look at how this condition works. So this is the condition, send email to Newtown. What it does is it checks the data in the form in my SharePoint list actually, that says adult club is equal to Newtown. So if they chose Newtown, well then if yes, send an email to Newtown and it says send it to the secretary, and this is the person who looks after registrations, and just say a membership form is submitted to St. Mary's, which is registering to your club. Here's the response details, and there's all the details all populated in. Please register this player with Croke Park. Thank you. And if the player is not equal to Newtown, or the adult club is not Newtown, it basically does nothing. But that is the workflow. And what that means, so just popping back to this particular area, what that means is that workflow, when someone comes in, they registers, we take the response details, we now have a club members list, and then we send the email to the relevant club, and then we send the email to the parent, and that's it. Our registration process is now done, and we've got a full list of members, and we know that the adult clubs have a full list of members, and this has just got rid of all paperwork. Very, very simple example of Power Automate at its best, and that's just using the free tools that were available to us within Office 365. Okay, so hopefully that gives a bit of an insight of something of what's possible. And the last product that I want to hit on through is Power BI. Okay, so what is Power BI? So Power BI, again, you'll have a little YouTube video up here, but it's a data reporting and interactive dashboard solution that allows you to connect to any data anywhere and interact with it visually. So I'm sure you've all seen various different dashboards and reporting solutions, but Power BI is BI being business intelligence, is Microsoft's reporting tool. Power BI, you've got Power BI Desktop and Power BI Service. Part of your Power BI Desktop is free, and the Power BI Service is part of any of your basic Microsoft 365 solutions. So again, so you can create your own Power BI reports very, very simply. If you want to distribute any reports to anyone else within your business, you need a Power BI Pro license. Now, we would probably consider maybe one, maximum maybe two Power BI Pro licenses would be needed for a business, because it's really only the creators of the Power BI reports, not the consumers, that need that license. So it's just the person who's doing the creation, they're the only ones that need it. Generally 1 or 2 licenses, and that's €8.40 per month. So that's the only extra cost that you might have over and above of what you have as standard. You have Power BI Premium Report Server. They cost a fortune. I haven't seen any reason to use them in any place over the past 2 years of our distribution. of Power BI. And if I was anybody, I'd be just working in this using the standard Power BI service and a Power BI Pro license. That's where I'd be starting. I'm just going to show an example. We are using it ourselves. We have a service desk dashboard of, and this is actually now reading live data, and this is Power BI. I'm opening up, in actual fact, what's going on here is it's reading data in our ticketing system, which is actually hosted in with our supplier, who is a company called Halo, and that all that data is in the cloud, is actually in Azure in a data center in London, and our Power BI, which is hosted within our tenancy, is reading that data, and this is our Power BI report. So if I were to give you this is our live data. So this is actually what's happening on our help desk. We can look and see what's load, what's open, support request tickets, tickets open by agent, what's closed this week, closed this month, log today, log this week, log this month. And if I want to have a look at, this is where it kind of really comes into play, is ticket status. If I wanted to see open tickets, I can just click on open, and now all the report changes around. So obviously I don't have anything closed, but how many open tickets logged today, logged this week, that are logged this month, that are still open. Or if I wanted to look at any, say, new tickets, and there's been 8 new today, status a new 18 logged this week. That's open and support tickets, which are in the status of new. Or again, if I wanted to say, hey, show me all the tickets that are in Graham's name, I can see, say, 34 tickets in his name. 1 is in today, 4 this week, 28 this month. Again, lovely, simple dashboard, really gives you good visualization on your data. Well, I'm only looking at one data source here. That data source can be anywhere. It can be in the cloud, it can be on premise, and I can pull multiple data sources together. It's just a matter of designing and building out the dashboard as you wish. And you can have various different reports within this model. So if I were to flick over there to agents, I can see basically what's happening in terms of agents. Tickets closed this week by agents yesterday, closed by agents yesterday, closed by agents this week, closed by agents this month. If anybody, you'll probably recognize the names. You can see all the different tickets and what people are closing, and you can do your lovely, all different graphs, filters, etc. So all looks quite well, and but is a great way for us to actually visualize and look at data. That's essentially what Power BI is. Okay, so just get out of here and back to my presentation. Okay, so that's the end of, let's say, demonstration of products. So how can you use the power of Microsoft 365? And I suppose this is the real question. So what we've devised here is we're opening this up to anybody who's on the call today, and you'll get a link through in the on a wrap-up email. Kathy will send it out, and there'll be a link on there to fill in a form if you would like to do one of these free assessments. But we've sectioned off each of the assessments into different areas so that you kind of have a think about what you're looking for before you maybe you ask us to do an assessment on. So you do a file storage assessment. That for us will be very much around, hey, I've got files that are stored on a file server. I'd like to move them to the cloud. Do I move them to OneDrive or do I move them to Sharepoint? Let's have a look at that. And that's what the file storage assessment would be. If I want to do an intranet, so if I'm a company and I want to build out a company intranet, sharing lots of information with customers, with our employees, that would be an intranet assessment. Extranet assessment will be, again, a SharePoint solution that maybe you want to share information with customers and suppliers or external partners to your business. How can you share that information with them securely? That's an extranet assessment. An automation assessment is where you want to take a form, take a document, take a process, and you want to automate that using Power Automate. And that might bring in Power Apps, it might bring in forms, um, or those particular might bring in SharePoint too as well. But again, very much we'll be asking you to consider a requirement that you have to try and scope out an initial assessment, and we can have a look at it. And what we'll do is on any of those assessments, we'll scope them out, have a look at it, and be able then to give you a pricing on cost on, hey, look, this is going to take 2 days to automate that, and here's the cost it would be. Or here, I would like to build a company intranet. I want 5 different sites. I want all this information. It's going to take X amount of days for us to do that. But that's basically what the assessments are. And the final one would be, let's say I want to do a Power BI assessment or a BI assessment. Is I've got this data. I've been sitting in SQL Server. I've been sitting in the cloud, and I want to do a dashboard that shows me X, Y, and Z. And again, that's what the BI assessments are. So those assessments are open to anybody on the call, or any company that's been on the webinar this morning. And Kathy will send out a link. The only thing is within that form, I'm going to ask you to have thought about what you're looking for first, and then choose the right assessment appropriately. Okay, so just before we get into the questions, we will be doing more webinars in the coming, let's say, probably might give a break now for July and August, but certainly in September. We've done the move to the cloud. This is the Power 365. We'll either do the modernized communications or the stay secure coming up in September, but so watch out for those in the future. Okay, questions. So Kathy and Mick, if you don't mind turning back on cameras and your mics, and we'll have we got any questions there?
Yep, we have a few questions have come through. I'll take the first one actually. Why are you not using Teams for this webinar? So yeah, Teams does have a broadcast facility. So it can be used for this type of thing, but what it's lacking at the minute is the whole registration functionality and the event reminders and all that sort of stuff. So that's why specific webinar software is a bit better. So question, we use our SharePoint as an intranet. Can you set up a separate intranet for specific file sharing to staff?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, well, absolutely. It absolutely depends on your requirements. With SharePoint as an intranet, you can actually share directly from the same point. Really, the whole idea of it is that your files stay in one space, and then you can control the sharing of it through manage access links, through groups. Absolutely, if, for example, you need have a specific reason to separate files out, we can create a separate site collection. So you will be using your same intranet. You can create a separate site collection that effectively has all the security permissions of a separate intranet, if that's what you require. But absolutely, it really depends on the specifics of the sharing. And we would always say keep it as simple as possible, particularly from a security point of view, where all your security is controlled from your Active Directory groups. And as people change roles in the business, and new people come and go, you're just dealing with their security in one place, and those permissions are pushed out then to files and folders and sites, and however else your SharePoint is set up.
Great, thanks, Mick. Okay, another one. Can OneDrive replace local network drives? And if so, how safe would it be?
Neil, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. OneDrive, that's essentially what it does. Replaces your local network drives. In terms of how safe it would be, in my opinion, your data is safer in the cloud than it is on premise. Firstly, you're using Microsoft as your Microsoft are providing the service, and then built within OneDrive, you have your security credentials for logging in, which are tied to your Active Directory. We would recommend, not to get overly technical on it, but we recommend everybody's got what we call MFA on their Active Directory logins. So that's making it extremely secure. And then, as I said earlier, in terms of OneDrive, when your data is at rest in there, it's encrypted. So it's, to me, it's as safe as anywhere. And then the other features of OneDrive with the ransomware recovery and the 30-day version history, to me, just all those features will make it far better than basic file shares. And we see a lot of our customers are moving that way now. We're getting rid of file servers and moving data up to OneDrive.
Can BI link with ERPs, for example, Intact IQ?
Yeah, I mean, there are a ton of inbuilt connectors already there. Once you essentially you set up the security in terms of logins. We haven't come across a solution yet where we haven't had an inbuilt gateway that couldn't connect. But
Yeah.
in the odd chance that it ever happens, we've got our sister software company who can create custom gateways for us. But at the end of the day, Power BI really doesn't care. It's agnostic about the source of the data. It just cares about data, and we've never had a problem connecting to anything.
Yeah, can I just add on that, if that's okay? Intact IQ is on-premise SQL Server. I know Intact. So the fact that it's on-premise SQL Server, we can just connect straight to that. That's not an issue. The one thing that we just need with it is what we call an on-premise gateway. That would need to be installed because Power BI will be resting in the cloud. It'll need to talk to what we call a gateway, which we'll install just on top of your SQL Server, which will allow Power BI access that data. But yeah, Intact ERP, no problem.
Okay, so somebody's saying that they would be interested in Power Automate. Is there a good basic training to gain understanding?
Yeah, well, I'm sure even the link, Anil, that you had in your videos is probably the best place to start.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this recording will be sent out to everybody, so they'll have those links.
yeah, absolutely. And then Power Automate there is Microsoft Learn. If you look up Microsoft Learn and Power Automate, there is tons and tons of training up there, which is available for someone to use. But yeah, no, if someone has the acumen for that type of thing, there's plenty of materials out there.
How can employers and managers control data and or manage what data users create and add in the likes of OneDrive, Forms, and SharePoint?
Sure. Well, the permission structure, as I mentioned in a previous answer there, we would always look to drive everything from the Active Directory. So in your Active Directory, you'll set up groups, both for security and also for distribution. And you would, looking at your requirements, you would define your groups in your Active Directory, and then you would give those groups permissions at SharePoint, at OneDrive, Forms, etc. Really, there is I suppose the thing is, forms have been set up to be wide open, so people can go off and create their own forms. It's then up to the company, I suppose, in terms of policies, how they're used and how they're pushed out from there. But at the end of the day, the three specific permission levels that we will start with are owner, which is full control, viewer editor, which has the ability to edit data, and then there's a view permission. But essentially, you will create that. You'll have one person in charge of, say, your AD, adding and removing people from groups. And once the permission structure is set up correctly, those permissions will just flow automatically through your entire tenancy, through all of your Office 365, excuse me, your 365, I suppose, stages or services.
Great. Thanks, Mick. Okay, with just two more. Are there data protection concerns using Power Automate, specifically third-party services to add functionality?
Yeah. Data protection concerns using Power, specifically third-party services. Probably something I can't answer publicly on the webinar, I don't really know the answer. I probably need to get a bit more specific around it. What is the third-party service that one would be considered using? So probably can't answer
Find
that
out a bit
one.
more.
In terms of like data protection and security, though, everything you're doing is you're using Microsoft services, and every security certification that's available, from ISO to NIST to pharma standards to everything, is all you're going to be fully compliant when you're using Microsoft services. So yeah, look, it's something probably we'd have to maybe tease out. I think it was a Wayne asked that. So yeah, look, Wayne, if you want to reach out directly to me, you're welcome. And I can speak, I can talk to you on that specifically.
And the last one, can OneDrive be used as an EDMS with an automated approval process and version control?
EDMS, with an automated approval process and version control. Okay, so OneDrive does have an element of process automation into it. It's not something that we have done much with in terms of OneDrive. We've always terms any automation we've kind of, as I alluded to earlier in the presentation, where we do for process automation or for metadata or anything like that, much easier to do in the world of SharePoint libraries and SharePoint storage than it is on OneDrive. I think an element of OneDrive, the automation would end up being a little bit curtailed, whereas with the metadata that you actually have in SharePoint, you'd have a lot more scope.
Sure. And just to say, I suppose, yeah, exactly, absolutely, it's the metadata functionality. It's the ability to hold a file in a status of a pending approval, whatever else. That's a SharePoint function. But of course, then we can automate the move of approved documents to OneDrive. So essentially, SharePoint would be I suppose the interface for the automation, the approval process. But whatever you want to do with your either your pending or rejected, or your rejected or your approved documents after that, they can be moved to OneDrive as to stay there to be accessed by by anyone in the tenancy.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. That's all the questions we have. So I guess thanks everybody for attending. I'll be sending out an email with a link to the recording of the webinar, and also the form that people can use to sign up for the assessments that Neil went through. And if anybody has any questions and want to reply directly to me, I can forward them on to the guys who'll get back to you then.
Okay, folks. So look, thanks, Katik. Thank you, Mick. And look, most of all, thank you everybody for taking the effort to come online this morning and listen to us spouting on. I hope we we made it as informative and kind of not wanted to do death by PowerPoint and tried to make it a little bit more real. But look, we're happy to work with anybody. Use those assessments, and look, we'd look forward to trying to help you automate your business in some particular way. So again, thank you very much, and till the next time. Thank you.